On This Live Life Well, we're going to talk about the importance of being present and making memories with Dr. Jennifer Baker of Good Dads. And we've talked about this for specific age groups in the past, about babies, and but we really haven't dug really far into this. And I'm going to make you listen to a little bit of a story, if you don't mind.
No.
So I'm watching an Apple show.
Okay.
And it's called Shrinking. Have you seen it?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm at the episode recently where the older man character, his daughter is angry with him. She's an adult woman, because he hasn't really been present. It sounds like from the script. So he is trying to make an effort, and his effort is to invite her to come to him for an award ceremony. She gets really angry about this, and you see him make the effort to then reach back out. And he goes to her instead of saying, "You need to come to me." So I thought that was interesting, because to me that says, and now I'm asking you to interpret a TV show. To me that said, it's never too late. But it's also never too early, right? Is it too late? In some cases?
I don't think you should give up trying. Okay, sometimes just because of what's gone on in a family, it may require a lot more work and understanding. It depends on how many walls have been built and how many hurts have been created. But I'm not saying you shouldn't try.
Yeah.
So the thing to start with, though, is to remember that those being present, like being there with your child, that starts when they're much younger. And it also starts then, I think sometimes people think, well, I was at all my kids' sporting events. And that's a good thing, but you weren't really with them in that moment. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like with them is like we're sitting at the table together, or we have little routines that we do together. Like, well, my dad and I always ate a bowl of ice cream at 10 o'clock at night, or my mom and I we baked cookies together for this occasion, or it's like things that you repeat, that you identify with your parent in that way. It's like building up those little habits and traditions over the years, and you wonder if they're really making a difference. And then sometimes when your children have children, you see them doing those same things, and you're thinking, oh, I guess maybe that did bear some fruit.
So I'll peel back the layer on my process a little bit. So before I meet you, I read a little bit about the topic, sometimes a lot about the topic, and then I have some questions in mind. But I always kind of picture this as more of an interview, kind of, but really a discussion.
Right.
So one of the things I wrote down, if I needed a question, was, and you're already getting into this, so this is what's great about you coming in and us having a conversation instead of this being an interview. But it sounds like you're saying, here's a definition of being present.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go to a hockey game together. It means maybe these smaller things.
I think people need to remember that it's the smaller things, those little traditions you establish over time, that can be like glue that hold you together in times when things aren't going so well. And so, if you start some things when your children are younger, and then they get to be teenagers and there's a little tension and friction, but yet you still have this tradition of like, well, we eat dinner together in the evening. You may not always be happy about it, but we, 4 nights out of 5, we try to eat dinner together. Or on the holidays, we do these certain things. And I hear parents say that, well, we always do this. We go to this place, or this is this thing that we do. Those can keep families together even when everybody's not always happy with each other. And then when kids go off and they come back, it's amazing how they often, are you going to make that whatever special, or are we going to have, because I really love that. So that idea, my mother had this lasagna that she always made whenever one of us brought home a person that was really special. I don't know if it was the love lasagna or whatever, but so even as kids leave home and come back, then there's traditions that when you bring your children home for the first time and you bring those babies home, and things that parents sometimes look forward to doing with grandchildren, and then you become known, well, that's the grandma I always do this with. So I just want people to know that part of being present are the small things. They're the small moments. They're not if you take a big trip, that's fine. But kids are more likely to remember those things that were repeated over time. And so you want to look for the things, the little ways that you can connect that become like a habit or a tradition or ritual. Family rituals are really important. Even couples need to have rituals of connection.
You mentioned the food, and
Yeah.
my youngest daughter came back for a weekend recently, and she said, "Are you going to make this dish?"
Yeah.
And my wife and I were kind of like, "Yeah, we have that," but that's like, to
That's
her,
what she wanted.
that's what was important, because
Yes.
Mom made that dish. And it wasn't lasagna, but it's close to
Yeah.
lasagna.
Yeah.
Something about the red sauce, maybe.
Oh, my husband loved baked spaghetti, applesauce, and cottage cheese, because that's what his mother often made. And he couldn't get that anywhere else. I mean, it's not really hard to make baked spaghetti. But, it was synonymous with mom, home, stability, comfort, security. And I think parents need to think about those little rituals or traditions or ways of doing things mean security, mean connection. We are creatures of habit. We are people of pattern. We like certain patterns of behavior. That's why we like to sit in the same place.
Yeah.
When we
At
go
the dinner
play
table,
at the
or-
dinner
yeah.
table, or maybe if we go to church, or in the theater, we tend to sit in certain locations because that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
And those things are comforting and reassuring to us in a time when things are not always, certain. So if parents can help their children feel secure by creating those little traditions and sticking to it. Not as a rule,
Right.
but as just sort of a general, kind of like this is ways we can do it.
Now, more or less, we've been talking about, in my mind, we've been talking about the core family, a mother, a father, a child, children. Divorce happens. It happens quite a bit. And I imagine, I haven't been through that myself, but I imagine that it's quite the challenge to keep the connection. What do you tell people in your practice when they're trying to maintain a connection or being present to their children, but they're not living in the same house anymore?
Well,
That's got to be more difficult.
yeah, I mean, because there's really kind of like maybe 3 phases to that. Okay, the divorce happens, and now you're at mom's house, and then you're at dad's house, and that's another phase. And then if one or the other parent remarries, then that's another phase. So you may need to create new rituals or traditions that they are not the same as they were when you were all together. So, because again, if you remember that those rituals, traditions, things you repeat are reassuring, they make people feel comfortable, they help people know what to expect. So in a new family situation, then saying, well, I thought we would do it this way. It helps the child know what the expectations are. It helps you know what the expectations are. And don't keep changing things up. And some people, never want to change things up. That's not a good idea, because sometimes we need to be flexible.
Right.
But other times people don't recognize that they love spontaneity. Well, sometimes kids don't want that.
Yeah. Trying to think of how to say this without giving away too much information, but we're aware of a couple, my wife and I, who went through divorce, and the mom feels like, I have to do the nitty-gritty day-to-day stuff, and this is the fun dad. He comes in and says, let's go take a trip, let's go to a game, let's do this. Does it help to be, in this case, the the fun dad, or is it better to be the nitty gritty, or is there somewhere you kind of try to meet in the middle with both parents?
Well, I mean, I hope that they can co-parent reasonably. Sometimes they don't talk to each other, but if they can, then getting on the same page about some things that would be important, like, well, at our house we try to do homework at 7 o'clock, and that seems to work very well. I'm wondering how it's going at your house. So, something like that. But I do think parents, when they've gone through a divorce, need to take the long-term view. Like all the wrinkles aren't going to be ironed out in the next 6 months. And so you may feel like this is massively unfair to you right now on either side of the equation, but treat yourself with dignity and respect. Treat the situation with dignity and respect, because the child at some point, or children, are going to become adults. And if they reflect on the way that you behaved, even when things were not difficult, how often have I heard people talk about their moms, I'm sure, who were the people who said, do your homework, brush your teeth, put the dishes in the dishwasher, about like how hard their mom worked and how she sacrificed for them, or how engaged their father was and how he paid attention to them. Kids become adults. And what you want them to think about is, what was the pattern of behavior my parent had over time in some stressful situations? That's why we need to focus on how we are more than we need to focus on this isn't fair. All right, well, you can't do anything about the fact that it's not fair. Maybe the other parent is not treating you fairly, but you can control how you behave.
So going back to that opening kind of thought of, if you haven't been present and you have an adult child, whether the child is 20, 30, 40, 50, and you want to make a change, is it kind of the same process? I like that term of smoothing out the wrinkles. Like, I'm going to make this grand gesture and everything's going to be great.
Yeah, probably not.
It's going to take time.
It's going to take time. If there are quite a few wrinkles, it's going to take time. But I will say this about parents: when you have children, with young children or grandchildren, and maybe you're retired or you have more flexibility, don't expect them to pick up everything and uproot themselves and come and see you. You uproot yourself. You probably have more flexibility, more resources. You go and see them and be helpful to them in their circumstances. And I think ahead of time you might say, is there anything you'd like me to do while I'm there? Any way I can be helpful to you?
Oh, that's a really good question to ask.
Yeah.
You're putting yourself out there.
Right.
You're not saying, I'm here, feed me, entertain me.
Entertain me. You're like, what would you like me to do? Or, sometimes even, well, what are we going to do when I come? Like, as if you need to set up the circumstances so that I can be happy. When my parents used to come and visit us, and we lived 400 or 500 miles from them, my mother would, especially when I come, if I was holding some event, she goes, how can I be helpful? She would bring food and she would fix food. I mean, I loved it. I never felt bad about having her do that. But my dad always wanted to help fix things too, which was great, and he was handy. And so what do you need done? So I loved to have them come, because they were like, how can we be helpful to you? And I think that goes a long way. It's like, I'm not expecting you to change your life to make me happy. I am wanting to be able to help you, serve you. Now, I'm not going to be a doormat. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying being conscious of the fact that if your children are in their 30s, 40s, or maybe even early 50s, they're really busy at work and with their children. And you can be a welcome guest or not.
So try to be a welcome guest.
Yeah, try to be a welcome guest.
Not a burden.
Not a burden.
Yeah, not like, when are they leaving? When are they?
Yeah.
Are they leaving soon?
And I would even say, if you had small children, you enjoyed doing certain things, and you're thinking about your grandchildren, you might say, I was wondering, when I come, I thought I would like to, or I would try to do this or that, and run that by the parents first. Now, they might be delighted. They're like, oh, great, Nana, Papa's going to come and you're going to get to do all these things. But I would ask them first.
Yeah, that's good. When we started talking, we talked about being present and making memories.
Yep.
And it sounds like they're very closely related, but not exactly the same.
Well, I think the best memories are made when you are fully present. Like when you're
That's a
with,
good way to
yes,
put it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're there, but if you're distracted, you're on your phone. Put your phone away. Put your phone away. When you're there, when you're present, then they're going to remember that as a time that you were there with them. So, for instance, when our daughter was about 16, it was not a particularly easy time for her and I, and if she's watching or listening, I think she would agree. But I can remember that we went to a movie, because you can at least sit next to each other. Of course, we went to the movie she wanted, and without talking. And then when you go, I took her out for dinner afterwards, and then we can talk about the movie. You know, so if nothing else is going well, you can talk about the movie.
Right.
And later on, she said to me, Mom, you know, when you did that, I just wanted so bad to talk about some of the things that were going on in my life, because they're trying to be their own person, but then they're afraid of whether you're going to reject them. And just like try to set up those circumstances where we went to a movie she wanted, we had food that she wanted to eat, to increase the likelihood that they see you as someone who loves them and wants a connection with them.
Take an interest in what they're
Interested in.
All right.
Okay.
Jennifer Baker,
Thank
Good
you.
Dads on This Live Life Well.